Noah, child number 7, is supposed to be getting ready for school.
No, don't get it all out now because I've got to put it all away.
Angela went into labour 5 weeks early. Noah's 8 years had been dominated by health crises. The day he was born, he was flown from Palmerston North to Auckland for intensive care.
I knew sort of straight away that he was really ill, and he wasn't breathing at all well when soon after he was born, he was taken down to special care, and he sort of thought, I didn't think he was going to survive, actually.
It was only after Noah was born that Paul and Angela learned he had Down syndrome.
We were very fortunate that we knew the paediatrician who was there at the birth, and he knew our family and Lily. And so how he told us was to say, did you ever see any photos of Lily when she was newborn? Yeah. And really, just as he was saying that, I was looking and thinking, this child has Down syndrome. So that was a very much gentler way of finding out. Which way to go now, do you think? Round the corner.
8 years on, he's just Noah. But Paul and Angela were surprised how long it took them to come to terms with his syndrome.
It was more of a bombshell than I sort of expected, I think. Having had Lily, I was very surprised my feelings of how devastated I was to have my own child with Down syndrome. Because obviously we'd chosen to have Lily, but having your own child born to you with Down syndrome was much harder.
I can remember Paul especially saying, I just don't think this should hurt so much. You know, we know Down syndrome. We know we can love a child with Down syndrome, but still this the sort of normal celebration ripped away from you, really. Yeah, there was a real sense of this wasn't what was supposed to happen, and this isn't the baby we were expecting.
It soon became apparent Noah also had brain damage. And while he's mainstream today, he's needed considerable support.
Noah had all sorts of medical issues, and that included a thing called infantile spasms that's related usually to brain damage. And then when they did an MRI of his head, they found there was some brain damage there. So he's had that to cope with on top of the Down syndrome. But mostly his attitude is, you just get on and enjoy life. And he goes at everything 100%.
He's a sort of very loving child who likes to do things. He's also become quite hard to control, though. I think Angela sort of struggles with him at times, getting him to school and getting him to do things he's supposed to do. But he's maturing and growing.
When he first went to school, it was like, please don't knock all this attitude out him. Just make it that we can handle him a bit easier. You think you'd like that one better?
By the time the family decided to adopt Isaac, their 8th child, Paul and Angela thought they were experts on both Down syndrome and parenting.
I was doing the Down syndrome magazine for the New Zealand Down Syndrome Association, and a social worker talked to me and was saying they sometimes have problems placing babies with Down syndrome for adoption in New Zealand. So I'd said, we could probably just run a little article about that in the magazine, and she said anybody who was interested in that could contact her. And so then I kind of got thinking, well, we could do that again, couldn't we? And so just a question of persuading Paul that, 3's not much harder than 2. And so I think we were the only ones who actually responded to the article I put in the magazine.
And so Isaac joined the family, and Angela and Paul became aware of how much they didn't know.
Well, I suppose, we've had 7 kids, and really just about everything had been thrown at us with our kids. So you kind of take number 8 perhaps a little complacent, and Isaac felt it was his duty, I think, to show us we truly didn't know parenting yet.
Isaac was born with life-threatening heart problems, often associated with Down syndrome.
A cup of tea and a penny bun.
Again, it was another roller coaster ride, really, because within a few days of him coming to us, we realised he wasn't well, and he was much sicker than we'd thought, and started looking up, heart defects in children and the symptoms that newborn babies got. Kind of vaguely knew some of them, and realised that he'd got lots of them.
More bouncing. Oh, wait for your cough to finish. Cough, 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 cough.
And they did a scan that found several holes in his heart, and started him on some medication then, and said that he probably would need surgery, which was new to us because we'd been under the impression that he had a minor heart defect that didn't need surgery. So,
Open heart surgery was performed to patch the 8 holes in his heart. Isaac then experienced chronic reflux. Even today, he's unable to swallow food.
To read the packet, didn't we? We had the choice of either taking him into casualty.
We thought, we're both doctors, we ought to be able to do this.
2-year-old Isaac is tube-fed for every meal. It's not yet clear if he will ever eat normally.
Isaac likes to play to an audience a bit too, I'd say. He enjoys having people around, and whenever therapists come and try and work with him with toys, he's much more interested in the therapist and smiling at her.
He's been very slow to develop. He's so sick during his first couple of years of life that it's been a long while before he's kind of started to blossom.
Angela and Paul say raising Lily, Noah and Isaac has highlighted how diverse the spectrum is.
Because Down syndrome is a real wide spectrum, just like with the whole population. And sometimes we see so much of the real high flyers that we forget that there are some to whom life's a real challenge, and for their parents it can be really hard to see, you know, kids with Down syndrome who are fairly independent and talk well when their child isn't at that level. So and that's been one good thing with having 3 of them. I can see that they really are all different characters and at different levels of attainment.
Can you tell us a little bit what it's like living with Down syndrome?
Sure. People with Down syndrome work really hard. They can do stuff and some things they can't do. Some things in my life can be annoying sometimes. Like I'm the shortest and I can't reach things.
There's no kind of hidden agendas with them, and there's no, you know, pretense of what the way they should behave or anything like that. They'll just tell you. If they don't like something, they don't like it. If they like something, they like it. And I quite like some of that.
Hello Maya, kia ora Maya, how are you today?
When 8-year-old Noah was born, Angela and Paul helped establish a group for babies and preschoolers with Down syndrome.
And there will be a speech-language therapist and a physiotherapist and music therapy, and it was just nice talking to the other parents.
Now Isaac's part of the group.
Coming to a group just for children with Down syndrome means you don't have to explain your child, you don't have to explain your feelings, you know. So you're actually in a group where you can talk about whatever you want and you're not forced to talk about the Down syndrome. But also if you want to talk about Down syndrome, there are people there who understand.
Angela's convinced the true potential for individuals with Down syndrome has yet to be fully explored.
Children with Down syndrome obviously have delays in their development, but they're not over everything. They're in the same way. So language is their real particular problem, and most people with Down syndrome can understand much more language than they can express. And they've found that things that you hear are much harder to understand than things that you see if you have Down syndrome. Maybe just because you see things for longer than you hear things for. So one really important thing is that signing the key words of a sentence really helps children with Down syndrome. And so by having a little group, it's much easier, and you can do songs and sign to the songs. So we really promote signing a lot in the group.
Hi, jiggy jig, hi, jiggy.